Hello. Test. All right, people are coming in. Just give it one more sec. Okay, we got some viewers now. All right, welcome to the UCI Captains meeting. So, this is more or less a question and answer period, and I'm not going to just read off everything in the captain's package. Hopefully, everybody has read that before they've come to this meeting. But I would like to keep some sort of flow to this that resembles the captain's package. First, I guess I can deal with the questions in the comments as they come. But if once those are done, I'll go through the document quickly, not in this full detail, and then we can stop for questions on each topic. But let's deal with the questions in the comments right now. First, Virginie Malte asks, what's the guideline once we arrive at UPI? Go directly to the fields? Can we move from field to field, watch other games, etc.? So that's a great question. So this afternoon, I sent all the captains basically a map on what happens when you arrive at the field. Sorry, I sent all the masters captains this information. The seniors captains will get this information next week. So the masters captains would have received a site map that looked a little bit like this, except it has gates at the bottom. So there'll be 3 gates marked 1, 2, and 3. Each division will be assigned a gate to go through. You'll then go to the sideline to which you are assigned. And then I'll just say that the gate is where we check your roster, you're on the roster, and your vaccination/test status. You'll then go to the sideline which you're assigned, and you should stay within that sideline as much as possible. We don't have the manpower to police wanderers that are leaving their sideline zones, but reasonably, you should stay at your field in your sideline zone. Okay, Laura Story asks, will vaccine statuses be checked in cars or on the fields? And will cars be backed up on Manistee Road? All right, good question. So as the cars come down Manistee Road, they'll be let into the parking lot 4 at a time, where they'll roll down the windows. They'll get a little bit of a spiel. They'll be directed where to park. Once you're parked and you're parking really tight, you'll get out of your car. You'll put your masks on, and you have your vaccination status and your ID in your hand. You'll walk up to the gate that you're assigned, gates 1, 2, 3. For masters this weekend, gate 1 is for mixed, gate 2 is for women's, gate 3 is for open. I'll decide the senior stuff later. At that joint point, you'll come to the first person who will check that you're on a roster. You'll pass to the next person behind them. They'll check your vaccination status and your ID. They'll put a bracelet on you, and then you'll go into the fields. So drive into the parking lot, get your stuff ready, get in line at your gate, roster checked, vaccination check, bracelet on, into the fields. Hey, Gavin Gray asks, how is the armband system going to work for identifying vaccination statuses of people? Hey, so we're getting bracelets. Everybody who is permitted to play without a mask, that is people that are fully vaccinated and people who have had a negative PCR test in the last 72 hours, and people who have a doctor's note saying they've fully recovered from COVID in the last 90 days. Those people get an armband, a wristband of one color. People who are coming into the site that don't meet those criteria will get a wristband of another color. I'm not sure what the colors are, but you know what your status is. If you see the person with the other status, they either have to be wearing a mask or you're the one wearing a mask at all times on site. Nick House asks, if an opposite sideline is vacant, no game on the other field or edge of the facility, can players use that sideline in addition to their bench to provide sideline help? So the quick answer is sort of. The real answer is that sideline is empty because there's a bye and there's people that are going to be coming in to warm up for their next game quickly after that. If there's games on all the fields, there's not going to be any empty sidelines. There's going to be people around. But yeah, if there's nobody there and there's nobody coming, you can sort of use that space, yes. But as soon as people start coming to use that sideline, you can't do that. Basically, you can't go into a sideline zone of another team. If there's another team that's there or is just arriving or hasn't left yet, you can't go into that space. CCS, are there volunteer opportunities for UCI? I will say there were volunteer opportunities. There are no longer. I'm pretty sure we have a long wait list of volunteers at this point, and I don't think we're taking any more. All right, so let's go into the captain's package. First section is the logistics section. So the gates are going to be open this weekend at 7:30 a.m. each day. If you have a first round bye, please let all the teams that are playing the first time slot show up. Don't show up before 8:30 if you have a first round bye. Parking is limited at UPI. We have a set number of parking passes. Those for the Masters teams, those have been sent out. And we need you all to park really tight. We have parking lot attendants. If you're not parking tight enough, they're going to ask you to back up and get back in even tighter. So listen to the parking lot attendants. Carpool lot available at St. Mark's just down the road. Address is in the captain's pack. I see another couple questions have come in. How big are the sideline zones? Can we walk up and down our game's sideline? So a regular Frisbee field is going to be divided into 4 sections, where there's 2 at this end and 2 at that end on either side of the field. However, these 2 might belong to the field next to you, so you might not have access to them. Or this one might belong that way and that one's that way, and your game has these 2 sidelines, in which case you can't enter into the zones of the other team's sidelines. So there's not going to be every game full-length sidelines. It's not going to happen. I have arranged for the Masters at least that field 7 is empty for the games on field 1, which are the showcase fields. In that case, each team will have 1 full sideline to themselves. Virginie Malte asks, so no COVID test is required if you're fully vaxxed. Being fully vaxxed is enough to play without a mask. That is correct. Yes, if you are fully vaxxed, then you do not need a recent test to play without a mask. Okay, back to the captain's package. Here's an interesting point that's definitely going to arouse some interest. No spectators. This is due to our City of Ottawa requirements. We required to get an event permit for any event of anywhere close to this size, and our event permit is only for a certain number of people. At this point, Masters, we're way too close to that limit. We can't accept any spectators. Seniors, I'm also expecting it to be the exact same thing. We are going to be way too close to that limit to allow any spectators. Okay. Let me just go. I'm getting a message saying that the link is not working. So I'll just come back to here, fix this real close. Here, sorry about this. Okay, as just a question from Craig McFarland, does that include children? Yes, it does include children. Unvaccinated children, vaccinated children, doesn't matter. They're not players. This event is not for them. Leave your children at home. Do not bring them to the field. This event is not for children. We are making exceptions for breastfeeding mothers. They can bring their infant children and a support person. First aid athletic care. We have athletic therapists on site. Taping is a service they provide for free. However, the tape does cost money, so you can bring your own tape or you can buy a roll from them for $5. Craig McFarland is asking, when did that change? I'm going to say that's always been my understanding of how this event was going to run. The no children is happening. He's asking about the no children policy. I do know that our intern did erroneously send out an email at one point saying that exceptions would be made for children who were unable to acquire childcare, but that is not the case. Do not bring your children to the field. They will be turned away at the gate, and then you'll have to leave with them. Food. There is no. We are not providing field food, so bring your own food. If you can't bring your own food, you'll have to order some food. There's lots of internet delivery services these days, and the address to the field site is both on the schedule and available in the captain's package. Another question from Virginie Malte: how many fields games will be live streamed? There's one showcase field for the Masters and seniors. It is field 1. The Masters, we're looking at doing 4 games on Sunday, none on Saturday. We definitely will do 3. We're going to try to do 4 on for Masters. For seniors, it's going to be field 1 again. I doubt I'll be able to make field 7 empty for all of Masters. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but we'll do at least 6, maybe more. I know the video crew that we have coming is very eager to do as many games as possible. So they might do up to like 9 or 10 games even, but we'll do at least 6. That's the minimum we'll do for seniors. Water is going to be available. There are portalets on site, porta potties on site. Use the garbage cans that are at the fields. I don't want garbage on the fields. We have some observers and live stream. Yeah, I'm Ultimate is doing the live stream. Okay, so before I go into safety protocols or competition, any questions about logistics? Okay, looking good. Yeah. Gavin says water system, same as no borders past few years where we get our own jug and replace. So I don't have the final details on that. I know we have water stations set up. It was going to depend on how many golf carts we could get to drive around the site. If we had enough golf carts, we would do bottles on every single sideline. If we don't have enough golf carts, they'll be at the water stations marked in the map. So the map shows 4 water refill stations, I believe. Here, I can just look at the schedule very quick. Yeah, there's 4 water refill stations, one between fields 8 and 9, one between fields 1 and 2, one between fields 7 and 10, and one between fields 13 and 16. So that's the minimum we'll do. If we have the golf cart capacity to do more, then we'll do sideline water bottles. Are canopies allowed? That's a little bit tricky. I would say I have nothing against canopies if they are not interfering with the field of play, which means a lot of the fields at UPI don't have room between fields for shade canopies. So you're talking about putting them behind the end zones. That'll probably work okay, except for field 8, which has a field on the back of each end zone. So also fields 12 and 13, there's room as long as you're not blocking the ambulance passage for the ambulance access. So I don't have anything against canopies that don't get in the way of fields, but there's not going to be enough room between fields, say 10 and 12 for any canopies. Between field 2 and 3, forget it. Like if you want to do it behind an end zone, that might work okay. Okay. Into the safety protocols. Just for people traveling from out of province, the province of Ontario has just now instituted a proof of vaccine requirement. That means if you're trying to go to an indoor event in Ottawa, like a restaurant or a gym, then you're going to need to provide proof of vaccination. Kate Cav is asking if they have a nursing single mom who needs to have her child at the field. Can an exception be made? Yes, breastfeeding mothers is an exception to the child rule. They can bring their infant to the field. And they are allowed one support person to help. The support person should have been put on a roster a long time ago. So it's a little tricky if at this point to try to get them on, because we're already printing rosters for the gate check. Okay. Mask policy. Ultimate Canada will be checking in teams and players, staff based on their rosters on day one with wristbands. I think I've already gone over that a little bit. Yeah, I've already gone over a lot of that. Mask policy enforcement. All participants are expected to follow the mask policy while at the event. If an athlete is not eligible to play without a mask and does play without a mask, they and their team are subject to UC event disciplinary procedures. This can result in ejection and disqualification from the event and team forfeits, all those kinds of things. Okay. The return to play guidelines have been up on Ultimate Canada site for a long time, so I'm sure you've had the opportunity to read them. I'm not going to read them now. Just going to emphasize that masks are required at certain spots, like the VC tent and the medical tent, and during check-in, and anytime that physical distancing is challenging outside of on-field gameplay. So that might include something like spirit huddles or something like that, or spirit lines instead of spirit huddles, where you face each other in a line that's a certain distance apart. Anyway. Okay. And then if you're not playing and you're on a bye and you decide you want to go watch another game, you could, but I want you to do it from behind the end zones where you're not interfering with anybody's sidelines. So this is not an opportunity to go chat with your friends in other teams and other divisions. But if you're tired of your own team and you need a place to go, you can go behind an end zone to watch some games. Those are generally safe places to hang out. I do recommend wearing masks when you're outside your assigned sidelines. Captains are definitely going to have to confirm every day that everyone on their roster is in attendance, and let us know people who aren't in attendance. It's also going to be the captain's responsibility to make sure everyone on their roster has done their self-assessments before they get there, the pre-screening. The link is available in the captain's package to the questions in the pre-screening. People who don't do it before they get to the field are going to hold up the line as we have to ask them all the questions. There's a section. Okay, that's the end of the safety protocols in the captain's package. How do we report that? So Gavin asks, how do we report that? You'll do it when you come check in at the tent. You'll say that my team has done the pre-screening for everyone that's here. So it would also be really fantastic if the captain was the first one to show up. So that would be really useful. VC. So this part I don't have a good understanding of, so I might just read this part. VC is offering UCI players a revolutionary new merch tent experience with the goal of keeping our community as safe as possible while offering an unlimited shopping option for our most popular items. The virtual VC merch tent is live. Check out the link in the captain's package. Orders placed between now and today will come from our pre-produced live inventory, essentially allowing you to reserve your choice of apparel and pick it up at UCI. Orders placed online after today and until October 11th will be custom made and shipped directly to you by November 25th. Please note, face coverings are mandatory in the VC area. Complimentary disposable masks will be available while supplies last. That's it about VC. Any questions about the VC section? I see Nina has a question from Serena for seniors. Hey, I can't ask any questions on the platform, apparently. If you get this message, could you clarify when taping services are allowed? The athletic therapist will be on site probably 45 minutes before the starts of games. There's usually a long lineup, so but that's usually when it's allowed. Again, the taping is free. The tape itself is not. So either bring your own tape or purchase a roll from them for $5. And then is there another question? Is there only one time slot for all day? Don't know what that means. Question 2 says, are there any pandemic thresholds that will cause a cancellation of the event, e.g. number of infections in the province, etc.? Can injury substitutions be made or on roster? Okay, so question 2 is, I'm going to say that we do not have control over what the province of Ontario or even the city of Ottawa decide to do. They could pull our permits at any point. They could cancel it. There is no in-house Ultimate Canada threshold that would cancel the event. So if the province of Ontario has one or the city of Ottawa has one, we don't know what it is, and we don't know what would trip it, what would cause them to pull our permits. 3, can injury substitutions be made on the roster? No, rosters are locked. So rosters have been locked since September 10th, I believe, maybe 11th. If you have an injured person, you can, if they can submit a doctor's note to Marco, and they can get a refund and be removed from the roster, but you cannot replace them unless your roster has dropped below 16 players. If your roster is below 16 players, you can add players back up to get to 16. 16 is the number that the Ultimate Canada Competition Committee has deemed the minimum to play safely. It's also for mixed play, 8 of each gender matching. So 8 male matching or 8 female matching. You can add players to get back up to 8 if you fall below that number. Okay. Competition. So I put the schedules out. There was a big review process, so I don't expect there's too many questions about the schedules. I know the master schedules, I did some field changing for open and women because we are no longer live streaming on Saturday. So I've highlighted those field changes in yellow for people to see on the schedule. All games are played to 13, half at 7. Hard cap is at 70 minutes, except the final bid earning games. Finals that are not bid earning games still have a hard cap of 70 minutes. 70. I've had a lot of questions about 70 minutes. The reason for this is because most of you, I think almost everyone, is playing 4 games for the Masters. That is playing 4 games on Saturday. The long-term athlete development plan for Ultimate Canada, it limits the amount of playing time in a single day to 270 minutes. So we're just a little bit over that threshold. But that's the reason for the 70 minutes. See, question here from Katie Cav. Is there a chance that games get canceled due to field damage? I would say yes, there is a chance that fields get canceled due to field damage, that games get canceled due to field damage. There's always a possibility we take fields offline. OQA is our partner in this event. We are not going to trash all their fields right at the end of the season for that. However, we had our Terry Lynn Belanger, our events manager, was at the fields today, and they seem absolutely fine despite all the water we've been getting. Let's say that we have extra fields at this event, fields that aren't being used. Field 9, Field 18, Field 19 are not being used at all in the master schedule. So there is an opportunity to move games from fields that are soaked onto those fields. Do we have a contingency? I doubt it. It's highly unlikely we have a contingency plan for this. Well, like I feel it's highly unlikely we have anything. There's no way we have any other fields booked. And if the fields at UPI are soaked, so are every other field in Ottawa. I don't see how we could move the event at this point or at any point. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not worried at this point that fields will be too wet to use. I feel there's lots of opportunity for them to drain and to soak up the rain that we have based on the dryish summer we've had. That this last 2 days of deluge are not gonna ruin everything. Move to unused fields equal contingency. I get you consider it that way. Yeah. I'm always going to be monitoring field conditions. I might be moving lots of games during the event to make up for that. We'll see how it goes. This isn't my first tournament. I've done lots of tournaments where fields have come offline due to damage, and I've had to rejigger the schedule. So there's lots of things we can do, but I don't think any of them are leaving UPI. I don't think there's any plans to do anything outside of UPI. Back to the captain's package about competition. Oh, another question. Referring to 4I and the captain info about tie. Okay, I'll get to 4I. I'm at 4F or 4E right now, so I'll get to 4I soon, Mandy. Halftime is 5 minutes in duration. Halftime cap. So I'm going to explain this because it's been a common mistake at the last couple events that I've run. And it's very critical that you understand how this is, because it could cost you the game in a very windy game. After 35 minutes have passed, that's halfway through the game, finish the point in progress. If neither team has yet reached 7 points, that will be the regular halftime score. Add 1 point to the leading score and take half when one team reaches that score. For example, after 35 minutes have gone, the score is 4-4. Finish that point, making the score 5-4. Don't take half yet. Set the half at 6 and keep playing until a team gets to 6. Now, in theory, that means that it is possible that you never ever get to 6 and you just keep playing a 35-minute point that goes all the way to the end. Then you don't get your half. That could happen. I hope it doesn't. I have witnessed a game where the final score was 2-1, so it is possible, but I don't expect it to happen at this tournament with the level of play I'm expecting from these teams. Okay, I also want to note that there's no horn to signal halftime cap. Extra horns can sometimes lead to confusion. So it's up to captains to monitor the time and talk to each other about implementing halftime cap after this point, if that's the case. Of course, the best situation is just to get to 7 before 35 minutes, so you don't have to worry about it. A common mistake is to immediately take half at the conclusion of the point that was in progress at the 35th minute. And the problem with that is that sometimes that can result in the mirror half being incorrect and a team gaining a wind advantage. So make sure you understand this halftime cap correctly and implement it correctly. I've had at the last event I ran, I had teams come up to me and say, "We did the halftime cap wrong. What should we do?" And I say, "It's too late. You already did it wrong. I can't fix it for you. So get it right the first time." And the team was very upset. They said, "But we lost the wind advantage." Well, you didn't understand the halftime cap correctly. So yeah, this is a self-officiated sport. It's up to the captains to understand the rules and to implement them correctly. 2 timeouts per half. Open Masters and Women's Masters were the only divisions that voted to reduce that to 1 timeout per half. So Open Masters and Women's Masters, you teams will be playing 1 timeout per half. Of course, I'm going to allow captain's clause to increase that to 2 or decrease that back to 1. Or if both captains understand what a floater means, they can do 1 each half and a floater. But I'm not going to make floaters the default. So it's Open Masters, Women's Masters have 1 per half, and Mixed Masters have 2 per half. Okay. There's no need to win by 2, and there's no overtime. Those are rules that have been removed from the rule book. Okay, and here's Mandy's question about Rule I. So Rule I. Okay, so she wants to know if it's up to the captains to know whether the point is needed. I would say it'd be very useful if you did. However, I will be monitoring this closely. That is one of the top priorities on my to-do list at the event, is to check in on the scores of the second rounds of pools of 3 to see if this rule is appropriate. Um, So, and what the rule is, so pools of 3 unfortunately have the possibility of unbreakable 3-way ties where all teams are 1-1 and all games have the exact same score, which means that plus minus is the same for all teams and points for is the same for all teams. So, in order to avoid this and having to flip discs to decide who wins the pool, at the conclusion of the second round robin game, if there's a threat of this happening, that means that if the team that is done playing after the second game has a record of 1-1 and both the first 2 games have the identical score line, that means that the third game could end up with the same score line and all teams 1-1. If that is the case, then the teams that are playing that second game play 1 additional point as if the game is extended for 1 more point, which means there's no flip disc to determine who's pulling receiving. It's the team that just scored is pulling. And for mixed play, we do have pools of 3, so this could be an issue for them as well. For mixed play, that means that the gender ratio alternates as normal. Either you play the second consecutive like this, or you've just played 2 consecutive and you switch to the other. So now you're playing this point. You finish this point, one team wins the point and one team loses the point. That point does not go in the score of the second game at all. That point is put aside and just remembered for later, where the winner of that point gets first place and the loser gets third place. And the reasoning behind this, the theory behind this, is now all 3 teams have a way of determining their own fate in a 3-way tie. And that the 2 teams that played this game have that point that decided their fate. And the team that wasn't involved in that game has the third game to avoid getting into that 3-way tie. So the team that didn't play in that extra point, they have to avoid the 3-way tie by winning their game, their last game, by enough points to avoid that 3-way tie. Okay. Are there any more questions about Rule 4I, the Captain's Package 4I, before I move on? No? Okay. Okay, games start and end with a horn, no exceptions. So that does not mean, hey, both these teams are here early. There's no game on this field now. Let's just start the game now. That's an unfair advantage to the other teams in that pool who aren't starting at the same time. So that start at the horn, end at the horn. If I'm on the rise, ready to blow the horn, and I see your game has already started, I'm going to come down and remove the point. I'm going to stop the game, make you guys split up again, repull, and restart. I've done this at C4 UC. I've done this at CU UC. I've never had to do it at a senior event, but so don't make this a senior or master event. So don't make this the first one. Okay, start at the horn, end at the horn. Okay, this is important so that the games have equal rest. If both teams are playing the last game of the day and both teams want to advance their game, that's something that could happen, but you have to ask me first. I have to approve that. I have to make sure there's a field available, make sure you understand what that means, and then I can approve that. But don't start your games before horns. Don't and games end at the horn. You can't just add extra minutes because you think you're owed that. Hey, forfeits. Let's not have any. That'd be nice. That'd be nice and simple. But there's a section on what we're going to do with forfeits in the captain's package. Legal forfeits are the last game of the tournament for both teams. So if that's happening, you still have to fill out a score sheet. Absolutely fill out a score sheet. Send it to me. In case of inclement weather, we've got okay, sorry. This part is in case of inclement weather that forces games to end before hard cap and rescheduling is impossible. Then a game can be considered final by me if either team has reached 7 points or 30 minutes have been played. But that's a last resort. I don't want to force that on anyone, but if there's unforeseen circumstances, that could be a situation. So like I try to say all the time is, don't wait for your last minute comeback. Always be leading. Like don't come back at the end. Just lead right away and keep leading. That's not important. That's not important for you guys. If there's buffer lines, respect them. I feel like we don't have enough room for buffer lines in a lot of places, so there's not going to be a lot of buffer lines. Maybe on fields 12 and 13, maybe field 1, maybe field 2. But that's about it. So we're going to try a new way of collecting scores this year. In the past, we've often done paper forms that have to be signed by the captain. Often we have a lot of volunteers holding those forms for you to sign after the conclusion of your games. We're not going to have that. Instead, you're going to go on your phones or mobile devices and you're going to submit the score through a form. The link is in the captain's package. I think I'll make the link available in the schedule too to make sure that it's easily accessible to people. I developed it myself. It's pretty straightforward. Put in your division, your team name, your score, their team name, their score. And then there's the 5 spirit questions that you're used to, and then a place for comments at the bottom, and then a place to put the name of the person who submitted it. That name field is considered a signature, which makes it official for Ultimate Canada. So make sure you fill that out correctly, but it's pretty straightforward. I would suggest assigning somebody on your team who's responsible for doing this at the conclusion of every game. Because it does contain spirit, that might be the spirit captain's job, or maybe the captain and the spirit captain get together to do it together. Mixed teams understand what Rule A is, so we've got that all explained. Are there any questions about Section 4 competition? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So lightning protocol. So the lightning protocol, which hopefully won't come into effect, though the weather's, here's some questions coming in. So we just wanted to validate that UCI isn't using the mixed gender pooling rule that WIFDIF is adopting. I'm not sure what. Oh, okay. That the person who pulls has to rotate gender. No, I think that's still experimental at WIFDIF. Anyway, the competition committee has not discussed that for Ultimate Canada events, so we will not be using it. Do we get a copy of the score sheet form for our own records? The score forms will be made public either at the end of each day or at the end of the event for you to go look up. So the same place where the schedule is, there'll be a new tab that says Spirit Score, and that'll include all the submitted score sheets. So right now it's in a different location, but I'll make sure that it gets transferred over into the schedule to stay public on the internet. Okay. Lightning. So the rules Ultimate Canada uses for lightning are if thunder roars, go indoors. Yeah, great rhyme. If I hear thunder or another Ultimate Canada staff hears thunder, and believe you me, it's my job to listen for thunder the whole time, I will blow the air horn 3 times to indicate that it's time to head for the cars. Luckily, we'll all have wristbands on by that point, so coming back in through the gates should not be an issue, but the exits are along fields 1 and field 12, so just in an orderly fashion, head to your cars, get inside, and wait for the all clear. The way you're going to hear the all clear is either through Ultimate Canada social media, that is Twitter, Instagram, maybe Facebook too, or it'll be through the schedule page where there's a new tab called Emergency Communication. Right now it says all games are on schedule, but if there's an event that requires delaying games or something like that, that's where you'll find out what time games will restart. So in general, what happens after a lightning, the all clear goes, and then there's 15 or 20 minutes before games restart. So that's that's what happens. The observers added that when you hear the horn blast, play is dead immediately. So you can just put the disc down on the ground to mark the spot, or you can remember that spot and remember who's on the field. People come back into the field. It says, take note of the thrower in possession, the count, and the position of the disc on the field. Upon ending the lightning delay, teams agree upon length of warm-up time, if any, and resume play with a check as if after a timeout. Okay, what happens if a team wants to temporarily end a game before you make the call for lightning? Oh, interesting. So I would say that if they reasonably think that there's a threat of lightning, that is a safety concern that should be respected. It would be best if they brought that concern to both the opposing captain and myself instead of just wandering off. But I would absolutely respect that kind of concern. I will say that in Edmonton 2019, we had a hailstorm, and the local organizing committee wanted me to stop games, but I knew that it was going to pass and there wasn't a lightning threat attached to that hailstorm based on the satellite data and that I had been tracking. So I did not stop games. And as I predicted, it passed in under a minute and a half and games resumed. The weather itself was still terrible. It was not fun to play Ultimate in, but it was not a safety concern in terms of lightning striking players. Safety communication. Should there be a game? Oh, yes. And then I'll update on the event schedule webpage and through social media. Okay. Any questions about lightning delays? Quick question on vax checking. Do we need specific ID as well as the vax receipt at the gate? Yeah. So what you're going to want, you need the vax receipt, and you'll need a photo ID with a name that matches your vax receipt. Right? That's what you'll need. So that for most people, that'll be a driver's license and similar. I think we would even accept student cards for the university kids that are having a tournament at the same site. Katie Cavallero asks, it will get complicated if one team wants to continue and one team wants to stop, in particular, if it could impact who could win the game. I completely understand, and that's why you should bring me into the circle into discussion, and I can stop games for all teams if we think it's a safe. If you present me a case that is clear. That it's a safety issue that especially around lightning. I'm absolutely scared of lightning. Like I do not want to get struck by lightning, and I'm the one out there holding the metal can above my head to stop games. So my grandfather got struck by lightning on the golf course once, and he survived, but I don't want the scars to show I can survive a lightning strike. So. Any more questions about lightning protocols? We have protocols for heat, which I don't think are going to come into effect this weekend, so I'm not going to go over them. Will UC be using a text-based broadcast system for communication? No, we do not have a mass texting system in place. We will be using Ultimate Canada's social media, and the Google Sheet schedule will have a tab for communication. Okay, section on observers. Observers are available for games the entire weekend, but there are not enough observers to cover all games. If you have specific game requests, please email me, batch@canadianultimate.com, or you can come to the Tournament Central at the start of the day. If you're coming to Tournament Central, wear a mask, please. The role of observers. So this is something that they explained at the start of every game, but I can go over it here. I'll read what the observers put in the captain's package. The role of observers is to help both teams uphold the spirit of the game, help clarify rules, and to manage the game. Observers have active calls listed below. All other calls are made by the players. So they call line calls in and out of bounds, in and out of the end zone, and force out fouls. They also call offsides. So keep your teams onside. Pulling team offsides is no longer a stoppage. The receiving team can move the disc to the brick, first offside, midfield, second and subsequent offsides, or any other applicable options, and must touch the disc to the ground before attempting a pass. Receiving team offsides is a stoppage of play and must restart with a defensive check. Observers are also in charge of timing, so they will watch for caps, halftime cap, and hard cap. Time between points, 55 seconds for receiving team, 70 seconds to the line, 70 seconds for receiving team to signal readiness, and then the pulling team has an additional 15 seconds to pull. Timeouts, 40 seconds. Sideline players should clear the field. Offensive players must be stationary in a stationary position after 70 seconds. Defensive team has 20 seconds to check the disc into play. It's no longer an automatic turnover when you try to throw when you try to call a timeout and there are none left. When the thrower attempts to make a timeout, to call a timeout when the team has no timeouts remaining, play is stopped, but the marker resumes with the last number uttered plus 3, so you get a 3 stall count penalty. If the last number uttered is 7 or higher, then it is a turnover, and you cannot start stalling at stall 10. Halftime is 5 minutes, which means the receiving team must signal readiness at 5 minutes. Observers pre-stall this. Okay, so that's when they're counting the 10 seconds or 20-second delay game. Let's just read this. Disc on the playing field proper is 10 seconds. So one fist in the air to put disc into play. And then to put disc into play in the end zone and off the field is 20 seconds to put the disc into play, both fists in the air. Observers will be enforcing the misconduct system. There are 2 types of misconduct: technical misconduct, which is minor conduct violations which do not affect the competitiveness of the game. Sideline encroachment, rushing the field before the goal signal. Technical fouls do not carry over between games. Then the other type of misconduct is the TMF PMF. TMFs are issued for unsportsmanlike conduct by one or more of the players that affects the game. TMFs do not carry over between games. PMFs, which are yellow cards, are issued to a specific player for particularly egregious conduct or a pattern of such behavior. A player who receives a second PMF during a single game is ejected. PMFs are tracked and reported to the TRG. Is that me? I don't know what TRG stands for, but it's probably me. And then they carry over between games. A player who receives 3 PMFs during the whole tournament is suspended for the remainder of the tournament. Red cards or ejections. A player may be ejected from a game for particularly egregious conduct or a pattern of such behavior. An ejection need not be preceded by a TMF or a PMF. A player that receives a red card is ejected for 2 halves of a game. If the ejection is issued during the second half, the ejection remains in effect for the first half of the next game. I see a question there. So Linda's telling me that TRG stands for Tournament Rules Group, but that's me then, because I imagine I'm the rules group. I got a question here. Can a team call offside with no observers? I believe it is in the rules that a team can call offside with no observers, but the penalties are not as enforceable. I think are the penalties? I'll let Linda answer this. Are the penalties the same in an unobserved game with observer calling an offside? while I wait for Linda to answer, watch for Linda's answer in the question there. The Mr. Bap. Linda is the head observer for Ultimate Canada, and she can answer your question about offsides with no observers. Katie Cavallero asks, can you recap the way communication will occur? Google Sheets and. So yes, the Google Sheet tab, if I go to the master schedule, there's a tab called emergency schedule, emergency communication, that says, if there's an emergency, most notably lightning, check here for information on game restart. And it says games are on schedule right now. The other way that communication will happen is through Ultimate Canada's social media. That is our Twitter account, our Instagram account, and probably our Facebook account too. We'll have Ultimate Canada staff send out information in that manner when we have definitive information. Okay. Misconduct penalties. Technical fouls are counted separately from TMF PMFs. One TMF is assessed against a team whenever one of its players receives a PMF. The first two technical fouls or TMF PMFs issued to a team are warnings on the score sheet. The third or subsequent technical fouls or TMF PMFs for a team in a single game result in a misconduct penalty against the team, and yardage penalties will apply. Okay. Swearing at an opponent will be a TMF or a PMF depending on the situation. Dangerous play clarification. Okay, so dangerous play is considered a foul regardless of whether or when the disc arrives or conduct occurs. Conduct is not required for a player to invoke this rule where there is a reasonable certainty that contact would have occurred had the player not taken steps to avoid contact. A player is not required to hold their position and receive contact in order to call dangerous play, but the mere possibility of contact is insufficient to justify a call. Furthermore, if the offending player stops or changes their path such that contact would not have occurred, contact was not reasonably certain. Question here. Serena is asking, could you ask him please to include Facebook for sure? Okay, yes, I will follow up with our communications people to make sure Facebook is a source of lightning delay restart information. Heather Wallace asks, can we have a sideline player, though, at their cone given the sideline zones for each team due to COVID? So the sideline zones don't extend into the end zone. So I guess if you might be able to leave a player at cones who can no longer walk up and down the sidelines because they would pass through the other team's sideline zone. Yeah, but I guess also you couldn't have both teams at that cone. You'd have to use cones opposite each other for one team to be on one cone and one team to be the other cone. Yeah, Linda's asking masked. I assume that's about having players on the cone. Yeah, if you've left your sideline zone, you should be masked, but you cannot walk through the opponent's sideline zone to any other. Sorry, you cannot walk through any other team's sideline zone. So that means if you can't get back to your bench, you're stuck at that cone until the end of the point. Okay, and then you can ask an observer for assistance during the game. You can ask for rulings or rule clarification. Please be clear on what it is you would like. Only one player has to want to go to the observer. Once the ruling is made, it is final. Linda, yes, do not go through an opponent's sideline zone or any other team's sideline zone. Spirit. All right. Any questions about observers? If you do, put them in the chat and Linda will answer because she is a head observer and I am not an observer. Hey, Section 7, Spirit. There's there's a Spirit Captain role manual. I haven't read it, but there's a link to it in the Spirit document. Into the Captain's Package document. Encourage all Spirit Captains to review the document. Due to COVID-19, we are not having traditional Spirit circles at the end of the game. So, like I said a little earlier, you could do something like Spirit lines where teams face each other like this and have a Spirit talk. However, also note that the time between games is shorter than a typical CUC. So you might have to keep it snappy because there are other games using that field, or you have to move fields. Who knows? We will use with the scoring system that's in the score reporting form. Yeah. Okay. Any questions about Spirit? Okay. And then that was the last section, I believe. Yes, that's all repeated. Okay. Any questions on any of the topics discussed? No, I'm not seeing any. Of course, any questions can always be sent to batch@canadianultimate.com. I can answer them that way. I might even be in the comments section after this video is uploaded to answer questions that way. Yeah, Katie Cavallero says, it sounds like the offsides without observers will be difficult to enforce. Yes, they are very difficult to enforce. Heather Wallace says, I know we are required to have a Spirit Captain. We have one, but forgot to add them to our UC roster as such. Is that an issue? No, it's not an issue that there's no Spirit Captain listed on your roster as long as you have the role on your team and it is clear what they're expected to do. Katie Cavallero, any chance that rule will be adjusted given the discussion? The offside rule? It's spirit of the game. Like, let's just obey the rule. We don't need people that we don't necessarily need people on cones watching every single offside. Like, just trust that we're doing it, and if there's a blatant offside, then call it. You can see blatant offsides from your own side, from your own sideline, from your own end zone. Alan asks, at the end of the game, is there a specific time the sideline should be cleared to make room for the next game? So luckily, this schedule is set up such that you're probably staying in the same spot for your next game, or there's very little other divisions coming in. And it's very rare that there's a team going on a bye and also the opponent and a different game coming into that field for Masters, I should say. For seniors, I haven't memorized the schedule yet. I made the schedule, I haven't memorized it, but I can look at it real quick over here. Yeah, there is a little bit more tricky situations in the seniors, especially around the showcase field. I would just say to be snappy about it. Don't dilly-dally. Like, if you're going to change your socks, that can wait until you've left the field to do that. Psycho Ned says, it is in the rules, just use common sense would be my advice. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, follow the rules, enforce what's in the rules, do the best you can. Nobody's deliberately cheating. Let's just have a great tournament. Okay. Last chance for questions. This video will stay on Facebook, or sorry, will stay on YouTube for a long time. You can always go back and listen to it again. All the information essentially is in the captain's package that was sent out last night. So let's have a great tournament. Oh, here's another question just under the wire. Relating to a sideline during gameplay, it is assumed that a team bench can extend to 3 meters off the sideline. Can members provide sideline support from behind the opposing team's bench? your Tim is suggesting that you go behind the opponent's sideline area and yell through them. I think that's a bad idea. I think, given all we know about COVID, that yelling at the field from behind all the opposing players is not appropriate. I'm getting some thank yous and some looking forward to it. All right, so I think I can end the stream now. Goodbye, everyone.